Work agenda, and that is employee length of service recognition. We have Jose Casiela, 15 years. Kurt Lamont, 15 years. And in person, we have Jacob Reichen, 15 years. That's amazing. 15, 15, 15. Jacob, come up and-
An infant.
Jacob is our city planner, for those of you who don't know, and that's why he's lost all his hair.
That's what happens.
And it's good to notice that he's standing in front of the picture.
Yeah.
City plan.
Hey, down, it was a good backdrop.
Yeah.
It's all, yeah. You gotta have that background.
So, look at her and go, gee.
Are we shaking hands?
Yes.
How was it?
So,
Yeah.
really appreciate all your efforts. I know you worked tirelessly. You educated Jenny. Brought her forward and along into our associate. Now also, what's her other title? Project development, yes, so, yeah, I know it's not an easy job, but, you do it well, and you do it with dignity, so,
Appreciate that.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. A liaison with the planning commission, I find, yeah, it's been great having Jacob. Jacob there and able to pick his mind even this morning about some stuff. So it's always good to get information. And I've learned to read his body language when I made a misstatement at the last planning commission meeting about public testimony at public hearings and began to say something that wasn't true. And he's looking at me and I said, oh yeah, okay, it's not what I said. What I said was not the case. I was mixing up. Anyway, so it's good to have professionals on hand to help us, counselors, make sure that we're going the line too. So thanks, Jake.
Jacob, congratulations, 15 years. That's pretty cool. And I've been here on your side the whole time.
Yeah.
Wonderful experience with you. Good leadership and very, very appreciative. Thank you.
Yeah, we've shared a lot of nightmares in 15 years.
Can I come in and see you?
We can get a few more in, Councilor Morton, before December 31st.
I don't know if I want to go there. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Just keep swinging your horn though.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the medicine
That is the medicine.
that keeps me insane. So,
Thank you, Jacob. And again, congratulations to Kurt Lamont of Public Works and Jose Villa of our police department. So. All right, next item on our agenda is the semi-annual report from our Chamber of Commerce, Jack Massey, for relationships. Just looking. Well, should we go ahead and let's go ahead and bring up Paul Vogel. Go ahead and, Paul.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me. Mr. Mayor and Council, Paul Vogel, for the record, Paul Vogel, Executive Director of Columbia Economics. And Kathy holds my fate in her hands with the slideshow here. Let's see how it's working out.
Very good.
These are the key discussion points that I'd like to run through today. I won't hit on every little bullet, but I want to throw these things up there so that and touch on a few so that if you see something in particular, we can talk about it in more depth. First of all, is thank you. First of all, thank you for being a member. Thank you for your support and your consistent support. And thank you for such a great representation at the annual meeting, membership meeting that we had in late June. We will be putting out, last year when I was here at this time, we kind of went through the annual report. We'll be doing an annual report with numbers We'll be getting that out about mid-September. So that you've got in writing and digitally, if you want to pass it around. We think that our activity really should speak for itself in terms of the value of membership and gaining new members and that sort of thing. But thank you very much for having been at the membership meeting. Kind of a list of current activity I'd like to go through, hitting on some highlights, and then, as I say, ask me if there's something that I glossed over that you want to know a little bit more about. And at the end, I'd like to introduce again. I think you met him the day we hired him as Jason as our Small Business Development Center Director. He's going to come back, try to get on the agenda because he'd like to engage you and get some ideas and that sort of thing. We're not going to take all your time today, but we're delighted to have Jason on board and wanted to include him today as well. Next, just cruise on through here. A big part of what we do and the value we need to bring is collaboration. And these are really the key collaborative initiatives that we've got. The South County Roundtable, you're all involved in and aware of. And it continues, driven largely by Rachel, who kind of keeps us herded. And we're thankfthe for that. The Colpack SED strategy is underway. We're involved in that, as are many other players. Jack from the Chamber of Commerce is involved in that. Not affecting St. Helens as much as the countywide housing implementation plan that's underway. Driven by anticipating the impacts from the next renewables project partially, but also we had the opportunity to use that to leverage some money to help do some analysis and some resource gathering for the smaller cities that aren't mandated to do HNAs like St. Helens and Scappoose are. We had another advisory board meeting today, and already we're getting some reactions from some of the smaller cities. Okay, we looked at that didn't really work, but we see this. And so what they're going to end up with is a lot of resources and strategies and ideas that they can carry forward that trying to assemble all that themselves would not have been able to do. And housing and workforce are two of the most critical components to economic development. So that's why we're involved in that one with Colpack. We continue to deal with childcare as a bit of a business issue with retail businesses, particularly and service businesses being able to operate shifts that they need to and get people back into the workforce. We're a participant. We're not opening a childcare. We did recently help connect City of Scappoose with the YMCA, which is setting up an after-school program in Scappoose. Probably not unlike the program St. Helens already has in place through the Parks and Recreation Department. So we've directed to the YMCA to your programs to take a look at what's already been proven that is in demand here. Response is high. We're hopeful that's going to help out in the big picture with some childcare there. A number of workforce collaboratives underway, not the least element of which is we're on the hiring committee for the PCC OMIC Training Center, which no one is immune from hiring issues because we passed on the first round of applicants. And so we've just posted again for the second round, kind of changed the posting a bit. And so we're very, very hopeful. Andrew Lutanner, who was the director, is actually involved in that process, which I think will be helpful. But it's a critical position. It needs to be a very Columbia County centric position, community centric position, and not just an academic thing. And so that's probably why we're being a little more discriminating. The Travel Oregon Destination Ready Collaborative, we'll touch on that a little bit more, but the city's been very involved in that. It's a water access destination development strategy, and you know more than anyone the opportunities for water access tourism. You may have seen a couple of weeks ago the Oregon Manufacturing Roadshow that hit OMIC. We were involved in that. The Oregon Businesses and Industries, we've been invited onto the Oregon Manufacturing Council subcommittees to try and gain support for manufacturing, which is our #1 sector here. And it's the highest factor yield sector, and it's about 3 to 1 in terms of multiplier effect economically of any sector. It's already our leading sector. We want to continue it. We've got a manufacturing innovation center. You don't have to be a genius. And that was held at OMIC, and OMIC, we are partnered with OMIC to develop a small business incubator, an additive and or an advanced and additive incubator adjacent to OMIC. And that's in the formation stages now. It's moving a little faster than we thought. We are this far in one committee meeting away in Congress from getting $814,000 for the planning and design of the incubator. Then there's a small matter of raising the $10 or $11 million to build it. We will not be coming to the cities for $10 or $11 million. We are already strategizing on some other routes. We see this as a state asset, and that's the route we'll go. So I will not be before you asking for $10 or $11 million. And if I am, throw me out.
We just might.
And then there, I want to touch a little bit more in a second on St. Helens centric collaboration that we're involved with, because there's a ton going on here. We've also been not giving direct grants since the last round ended in February, but we've been very involved in assisting in a number of grants. The historic preservation grant that the Klondike got, we were asked to help out with that. We were able to help get an OCF, Oregon Community Foundation grant for this Columbia City Library. Participated in the Innovation Hub application. They just got that. Polpak is developing that. Centers of Innovative Excellence is another designation that OMIC has applied for. It comes with a considerable amount of money to help with programming, and we think kind of align with the accessibility that the incubator would provide to OMIC. Excuse me. And then we've been promoting and contacting directly businesses and organizations around the last real round of grant funding from ARPA and CARES has been the Oregon Events and Venues, and about $45,000 to local venues like event spaces and performance spaces and that sort of thing. In the first round, the County Fairgrounds just got one for $277 for some building improvements and repairs and that sort of thing there. And then there's a current round out that we're promoting for event venue support, which if you read our newsletter and we've got it posted, is everyone from literally entertainers to sound technicians to costume providers, those folks that kind of aren't a venue. They're not a facility, but they only work when those places are working. And so that round is out now. Regrettably, it's a lottery. So it's not first in, first served. It is first in, we'll reach in and pull names out. But I think the deadline on those is this 29th or 30th of and then one we're very involved in right now is a Cultural and Heritage Coalition grant. This would be about $500,000 for the museum to move out of its existing space into the John Gum building, freeing up some things to happen with their existing building. That's a coalition of a whole bunch of folks, the county, us, the Museum Association. I think Main Streets has been involved, and that's due on the 29th. It's actually a lot of people who've never really worked together on a document, working together on a document. So it'll I'm sure it'll turn out well. So we're very hopeful, because that would significantly upgrade what the county is able to do in terms of display and interactive stuff and quality of the museum. Excuse me, in the John Gum building. St. Helens centric collaboration, of course, the roundtable, the Travel Oregon Destination Ready Collaborative. The city was very involved in that. Again, it's focused on access to the water. We're just getting the report, about to finalize the report from Travel Oregon in terms of our priorities. You may recall me talking about this before. what's different about this is that didn't come, it came with a little bit of capacity to pay for the time to do it, but it didn't come with money. What it comes with is a commitment of Travel Oregon to go hand in hand with us. Not only to its own internal grant programs, but also external grant programs. You've got a state agency that is in lockstep with you to go get that money, which, it's not a silver bullet, but it's huge, particularly with their own internal stuff. The, the Business Oregon State Agency Tour that happened last week, the staff here did a great job of pulling together, not just the master look at everything, but getting into the details and the phasing and all aspects of that. And that tour was key for a couple of reasons. One, to demonstrate the public process and the master planning that is taking place and showing that to agency representatives that don't often get out. And seeing stuff and meeting people makes a huge difference when they're processing requests or permits or anything like that. And Melanie Olson from Business Oregon put this thing together to get those folks here and to show off what's going on here. Secondly, we're in a huge stretch of transition right now in state government, and transitions in state government create uncertainty. And uncertainty is not our friend when it comes to working with state agencies. DLCD's director retired, DEQ's director is retiring. We've lost our regional solutions coordinator. They're down to 3 of those in the governor's office instead of 8. People are looking for other opportunities or just their next adventure, staring down the barrel of an election in November. They don't know what's going to happen. A lot of uncertainty going on, and the more connection that we have with these folks in these agencies as they're navigating that transition is really, really positive. And so we've actually got another meeting coming out of that with the new DLCD representative, 2 new DLCD representatives, and the new regional solutions coordinator. Going to have that next week, just to get them brought up to speed on things countywide. We probably even have it here in St. Helens, countywide. Make sure that we're in lockstep with those folks, so they're not getting to know us as we're trying to get them to make decisions. We're working with the port on a couple of expansions at Multnomah Business Park, working with St. Helens Main Street, both on some grants, but also Keep It Local is working very closely with Main Streets and the South County Chamber. And then I mentioned the Cultural Heritage Grant, which is moving from one place in St. Helens to another place in St. Helens. And would actually be our neighbor in the John Young Building. So we want our neighbor to look good. So that's why we're involved. Recruitment projects, that's a big part of what we do. There's a lot underway. You met the Danson's Corporation before anybody else met the Danson's Corporation. The ink is dry. It's dry to the extent that they got to confirm the surveys and all that, which are underway, local contractor. But we meet with Danson's every week for an update on the project. And they're moving forward and still looking at 2 phases. Next Renewables up in North County, as you know, we're very involved in that. They're expecting their air quality permit literally any day. There's an EIS underway. We've still got some months to go, but we continue to advocate for that and work with them. And we're hopeful. Huge impact in terms of construction labor as well as jobs. But the effect of $2 billion of private investment is pretty incredible, especially one that aligns with Oregon's climate goals for low carbon fuels, as well as the Clean Air Oregon. Project Alfred, I may have mentioned before, it's a large hydroponic food, I always have to qualify it, food growing operation. About 845,000 square feet of greenhouse. We're targeting that at Rainier. Literally, this is the week we'll know if we're still in the game. I've been trying to assemble a site, which they don't have much industrial property, and they don't have very many large parcels of ag land. So I've been meeting with property owners. I haven't been thrown out of any houses, but I've been told the conversation was over. But we have an offer into one farmer as of last night. And we have to have a site by the end of this week, otherwise we are out of contention with the other three locations. A lot of time and effort. We've learned an awful lot about land services department and a lot about City of Rainier's capabilities and working together through this process. Project Dame is a relatively new one that is targeted for the Commerce Center. That's hydrogen production. That would be almost 100 jobs, about 20 acres down not too far from Homick. Project Stamper is an aviation manufacturing opportunity. We're actually in the throes of that one right now. It's about 200 jobs. We have one of probably 3 qualifying airports in this county for that project, because it's not just manufacturing, they have to have access at least through the fence to the runway. And Project Trailblazer is a port project we supported, but they took it on, they proposed their sites for it. It's a plastics extrusion producer, and they've made it through the second round. So we lined up a number of businesses, a couple of them in St. Helens, to be references in part of that due diligence process. So that's cooking along as well. Those are really the big projects that we're working on. Retention, expansion, and recovery. As you can imagine, a lot of the growth and the expansion now kind of shifts to Jason. But there are still elements where they're not looking for business consulting, they're looking more for financing opportunities and connections with other suppliers and that sort of thing. This gives you some sense of the picture in that regard. And all you have to do is look around St. Helens and see all the startups. Business here, business there, business here, to see that there is growth activity underway in the small business sector. And we're glad to be involved in some of it, but a lot of what we do is, yes, we know something about that. This is who you need to talk to, and just getting these people connected. We've got a couple of St. Helens businesses, existing ones that are looking to expand. And we have 2 new enterprise zone applications that we'll be bringing forward in the next month, probably. We're coordinating very closely with the port on not only its properties, but they've even been involved with the port with the Project Alfred project in Rainier, just because they have some technical capability we don't. And then, of course, Keep It Local aligns very closely with the Small Business Development Center on the promotion and marketing of small businesses. We'll spend a second on Keep It Local, because I want to let you know, I'm sure that Sierra has, or within the next hours maybe, been getting this marketing information to the city and the chambers and everybody possible. This is a new Keep It Local brand mark. They went through a rebranding process, and this represents a digital learning series, digital marketing series that they put together. We had a grant from Business Oregon, all the way from just the basics to literally one-on-one sessions with people on their digital and their social media marketing over the next, I don't know, starts in September, goes through October, and then there will be another tranche that takes off in early winter. So there will be a lot of publicity about it, and please encourage anybody and everybody to sign up for these. No charge. It's what you get to do when you have a grant to sponsor it. We've got a great partner doing a lot of the digital work with us. So hopefully we can get that posted on the city's Facebook and everybody's Facebook and drive through it. I think Jason's doing a couple of sessions as well. But it kind of exemplifies the alignment between the Small Business Development Center, the Keep It Local, and really the GROW initiative, which we're delighted to have been consulted by the city on our ideas for the Growing Rural Oregon. We're glad that the city was selected. We think it's a great model, that it'll be successful, and that it could lead to the same sort of initiative in other cities around the county. But the city's commitment to go for that and use the Ford Foundation funding, it's a little different angle on the small business thing. It's more the entrepreneurial space, which not everybody who starts a business is an entrepreneur. It's a different approach to business, and it's just great to have that slice as part of the pie. Tourism, I mentioned the Destination Ready. I'll also mention the Tourism Leadership Academy. Well on our staff was in the first cohort. Rachel Berry from the city of St. Helens is in the second cohort. That is one of the best networking and leveraging opportunities that Well has ever had. And I'm sure that Rachel will make at least as good a use of that. This is essentially a list of what's on our to-do list right now. Travel Oregon has just adopted a new strategic vision, so now having to all sort of adapt how we describe what we're going to do in our plans to the new vision. Of course, Travel Oregon's also going through a reorganization. We don't even know if half those clowns are still going to be there in October, but you know, you do what you can, and we've developed great partnerships with them. So we'll keep getting everything out we can. Membership is also a big focus for us right now. You know, of course, we're doing the weekly communication, the e-news, scheduled updates with bodies like yours. We're happy to talk to anybody anywhere about what we're doing and see if we can all work together. We did have a dues adjustment this year, first one we've had in I think 8 years. So helps us with our capacity. We did increase our membership, and we're going to increase it a bunch more because the board has established a membership committee. We kind of been busy doing what we do and not really growing our own membership, and we need that for capacity so we can do more. Primary objectives going forward is coming. There you go. Obviously, deliver these private investment projects. Private investments beget other private investments, and they beget tax revenue and jobs, and that's where you get the multiplier effect. Maximize on all we've got coming together in terms of small business growth, not just the pieces we're trying to help put in place, but also the folks that are just, frankly, a lot of them saying, I'm not going to work for somebody anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. This is the right time to do it. We're seeing a lot of that. Deliver on our strategic goals, lead wherever possible and wherever needed, meaningfully engage as a stakeholder and a partner, whether we're leading or we're simply supporting and helping make sure it happens. Maximize our return on member investment of every member, and steward the economic prosperity of Columbia County. That's what we're all about this year from an umbrella perspective, and the intention is that everything that I talked about leading up to that actually fits under this umbrella. As always, we appreciate any questions and ideas and feedback now or at any other time, and I would like to bring up Jason to maybe do a teaser for coming back and talking with you and getting your direct feedback on the Small Business Center and some of your ideas on what you'd like to have happen. With that, I'll shut up finally.
Well, a little injury and surgery isn't going to prevent me from advocating and helping grow St. Helens' best businesses. Like Paul had mentioned earlier, we're part of a lot of St. Helens Center collaboration right now. I'm a South Columbia County Chamber Ambassador. I'm involved with Main Street, the GROW program, as you guys know. But what I'm embarking on now is what I'm calling sort of the listening roadshow. And I want to engage with each of the cities within the county and find out what their expectations are of the center moving forward. As Paul mentioned again, I'm collaborating with Keep It Local, and we're rolling out some marketing programming starting next month that will go through February. But I'm really looking at more robust training for small businesses, some programs that are really meaningful, and as well as whatever engagement looks like for those small businesses, especially in St. Helens. So I'm hoping to get some time on your calendars to come back and ask some of those questions so we can really best serve St. Helens. Just a few numbers since I've started, like Paul said, I think I met with you day one. Maybe it was even before day one, but yeah. but I've been serving St. Helens in one capacity or another for several years now, but now I feel like it's a more official capacity being with the Small Business Development Center. We've been serving over 24 clients already, over 100 advising hours. Many of those businesses here in St. Helens, again, referrals in from organizations like the Chamber, Main Street. I work closely with Rachel Berry as well. And so a lot of those businesses, like Paul said, are popping up around here, and we just want to help leverage that growth and make St. Helens the best that we can. So again, I'm not sure if it makes sense to be on the next agenda or what, but I would ask for about 20 minutes of time to go through some questions. These questions, I will be asking the same questions of each city, but I'm hoping that the answers will be very tailored to the needs here in St. Helens.
And really the basis of it, two things. One, you're all investors in the SBDC. St. Helens was the first one. And secondly, you all know your community and you know the business community. And from an investor standpoint, and a public standpoint, as well as your familiarity standpoint, getting your expectations and aligning those with what we're getting from businesses and what they say. I think it's important for Jason to be able to navigate their feedback back to the city and the city's feedback into his program. So he's got a great plan, and it's a way to make sure that we're serving not only the investors, but also the businesses in the best way.
Can I ask you questions now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, is that okay?
Yes, that's okay.
Starting off with OMEC, are you centering on any particular industry you're going to help with your build systems? Aircraft, farm instruments, medical?
It's pretty agnostic.
Okay,
It's pretty agnostic.
next
They
question.
did just get an F-15 contract, so.
Well, the hope is if you have an industrial center, it's all kind of the same flavor. Then they help each other as compared to a shotgun.
Yeah.
Okay, on your hydroponic operation, that group going to do its own distribution, storage and marketing, or they are just a grow operation?
Oh, no, they do all their, do their own distribution and their own marketing. They're established on the East Coast, moving to the West Coast, and their markets are Puget Sound and the Portland markets, which is why Rainier makes so much sense, because it's 10 stoplights from I-5 going north. So yeah, it's fully integrated.
Okay, same condition. Right now, Lake Mead is almost drying up and a lot of the vegetable production in California is gonna go away.
Mhm.
Have they any ideas about expanding into that market? Because in California, they don't have any water.
I have no idea. All I want to do is get them in Rainier.
You know, okay, following that up is we have water. Councilman Morton will tell you about that.
Mhm.
So we were not particularly centered on any particular industry in the economic zone or in our development zone, we're just shotgunning it.
I wouldn't say that, no. No, we're very manufacturing oriented.
Oh, yeah, but manufacturing of aircraft, plows. I was wondering what industry you going to be manufacturing for?
Well, we have particular strength here in metals manufacturing and metal fabrication because we have a good existing community of that. The OMIC is particularly oriented to creating, metals, but also they can extrude molds for plastics or any kind of manufacturing.
You're lousy in this state for castings and that type of machinery. I have to send out to Utah to get things cast around here. Now that OMEC is coming in, but they will not have foundries. They will be able to make one of a kind.
Well, they'll actually replace some foundries by using additive manufacturing.
Not in the levels that I need. The additive manufacturing is very good for beginning. And for complicated things one at a time. But if you need 500 of them, it's not really the way to go.
Okay.
Any thoughts on, as I say, expanding the use of OMEC after it gets that, or is that something to come?
Well, that's OMIC's call. We're a partner of theirs, but we're not driving their strategy or their board of directors.
And they haven't told you what their plans are.
Well, I know generally what their plans are, but they're an R&D facility and they're largely dependent upon what their members, who are high dollar members, are requesting of them in terms of tool development and machining and that sort of thing. So it's largely driven by who is actually a member of theirs in their particular sector.
And your members, any particular industry outstanding, or they just people come in and they need the tool shop for 3D printing.
It's not quite that simple. There's a
I
lot,
know
of-
it's not.
there's a lot of aircraft, but it's heavy, large manufacturing.
So define heavy,
Aircraft.
that's lightweight. How about forging presses? And we made it,
Well, I'll be happy to send you a list of the OMIC members.
okay, I'm industrially inclined, so that was in some way a trick question. Forging presses to me, where you've got an 80-ton crown is heavy. An aircraft which weighs 25 tons is a big aircraft, but it's not heavy.
Okay.
That is, I mean, I'm trying to find out what their overall down the future is
Well,
looking for.
I would be more than happy to connect you with Craig Campbell to
I'm gonna,
have him sit down with
Yeah,
you.
okay.
I'm gonna interrupt for just a minute. It is Jason, right?
Yes.
So we'll try to get you on the next meeting, but we have a 3-week period. If not, the September 7th, the 21st for sure.
Okay,
Keep you in here.
that sounds great.
We have a 3-week period. We don't know what happens between now and then. And we do have a big public hearing that day as well. So I know that.
You're not going anywhere.
I'm not going.
Just letting you know.
Yeah.
And John will be in touch with
Thank you, Mayor.
For those 20 questions you're gonna ask, are those in advance or those?
you. Yeah, it might help.
I don't know. That would be a bad idea.
Yeah, so my plan is to, I'm still crafting some of those questions, so I can definitely supply those ahead of the meeting.
Yeah.
So you don't feel surprised by anything that I'm gonna ask, yeah. Put some thought around it, yeah.
No personal questions.
Hanson, Beach Drive, we're still moving forward.
Yeah, everything that's happening now, because you know, it's a complicated property with DEQ and all that.
Yes.
So they just had to resurvey it. Everybody's got to sign off on the survey, but yeah, they've signed the purchase sale
So
agreement.
it's just getting through all the little logistics. on
Yeah,
the,
the attorneys are essentially done.
Good.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, they're very, very father and son. Remember, they came with that, yeah,
They're a good bunch.
yeah, so. Any other questions for Paul or Jason? All right,
Thank you.
we'll be seeing you soon, Jason.
Yeah, to an annual report.
Thank you, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, so now we'll come back, because you just walked in and we didn't have no public comment, and I didn't want to wait and make.
Understand.
Let's go back on our agenda and go to semi-annual report from South Columbia County Chamber of Commerce, Jeff Massey.
Thank you for having me. So you have my report up on the board there.
Yeah.
I may have added a few things to it, but I'm hoping that's okay. I won't take up much of your time. I want to keep this short and sweet. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate being able to come in and kind of give you guys an update of what's happening. As you recall, I started last October, so I'm 10 months into this and I'm still loving it. So
Good, good.
sticking around. What I wanted to start out with was just hoping that you wanted to see some numbers as well, some stats. So running the numbers for the last 6 months, we are doing pretty well considering where we've come from. It's been a little rough in the past year and a half or so. Of course, COVID had something to play with that. But we have 15 new members in the last 6 months, and only 4 of those members, 4 of our existing members did not decide to renew for what have you reason. Some of those actually have renewed since in August, but we're just reporting on those 6 months. So then I was curious, just personally myself, how that compared to the previous 6-month intervals. And so just running those numbers in the previous 6 months, we had only 4 new memberships, but then we essentially lost, 15 members. They didn't come back. Previous to that, 10 new members, but 14 non-renewals, and then 10 again, and then 37 non-renewals. Obviously, that last one, there was probably a lot to do with COVID. So the trend is moving up, and I want to keep that in that same direction and even see those numbers be higher in the memberships and 0 in the non-renewals would be perfect. So if that's good information you guys like to hear and know about, I will continue to kind of incorporate some of those numbers in future presentations. Okay. Our networking events, are probably our number one reason why the chamber is doing so well. They are really just, we're trying to make some changes and some improvements. One of those things is incorporating a +1 promotion program, which is encouraging our members to talk to other community members, business owners, and if they're not already a chamber member, but they're curious or maybe on the bubble, bring them, have them as a guest, and those members that we have brought them will get extra time to share at those meetings. We have 30-second commercials, and those 30-second commercials get to be extended for another minute or so, which is kind of huge in that realm. For those networking events, because we do try to keep that time open also for the networking. If we give everyone 5 minutes to talk about their programs, then no one has time to network. But the +1 promotion is really something that everyone kind of strives to get. And we are definitely seeing an upturn in new people coming to these meetings just to get a taste of what it is. And that's the whole point. So either they like it and they want to come back and join, or it didn't fit their needs, and that's okay too. Coffee and Commerce, we do that once a month. It's booked through November and possibly even December at this point. Our happy hour also once a month. And it's, although it says up there September, we've now actually got it booked through October. So we're just trying to stay ahead of the game there. Some of those happy hours aren't our members, but we are reaching out to some of the food and beverage vendors for the reason of seeing that they could join the membership by seeing what this benefit is by the members showing up and having these events there as well. So that has played out well in a few cases. We're adding some changes and some new features in the next 6 months that you guys will see in our happy hours to actually increase the attendance and encourage members to partnership more so, and opening up our happy hours to more than just food and beverage vendors. So insurance companies, different types of businesses that serve different purposes in the community could actually be a happy hour location. Maybe partnering with a catering company that's a member or something like that, provide the fun stuff. But so those are some of the things coming up, and trying to incorporate and get more people to be aware of what's going on. And so yeah, some fun things coming down the pipe. As far as marketing and improvements go, community outreach, I have been instructed to do more community outreach. So my hours at the office are variable. For that reason, I do try to make myself available via cell phone, and I've got that kind of plastered all over the building there. If you showed up and I'm not there, call my cell phone. I could be 5 minutes away. I'm in the area, and I do my best to make sure everyone has got the attention that they need, no matter if presence is there or not. But that's what the chamber is about, is the outreach and being available to my members. I'm publishing 2 newsletters a month now. Hopefully everyone's seeing those. If you aren't seeing those, I'd love to add you to the subscriber list. Please let me know if you haven't been seeing those. And this next one, I'll just give you guys a little secret tip. You're going to get a little inside scoop before it comes out. I don't know if you knew this, but Travel to Discover is a magazine catalog. And we are listed, St. Helens, as the top 18 small cities with big Halloween celebrations. Did you know that? That's from New York and Michigan and some dates in there. So little secret tip there. You'll see that in the next newsletter if you're interested, and the full article will be a link that you can look at. We're finalizing a promotional brochure. I think this is very important to be able to give to people who are either current members and just need to be reviewing their benefits. It's easy to forget sometimes what they have available to them, and I don't want that to happen. I want them to take full advantage of what we have to offer with their membership. Also, that brochure is going to be used for promotional purposes. Someone who wants to know why they should join the chamber, this will answer those questions as well. It's a good tool to be providing to our ambassadors, which I will be doing shortly. Currently, we're participating in the upcoming Senior Health Fair, the St. Helens Block Party. We're partnering with Keep It Local, CET, Main Street. We've been talking about the 2023 mural program and how the chamber can be involved in that. Understand that there's going to be some scarecrows coming through downtown. And so we want to be a part of that as well. We have that big pole out front of our building. Love to have an oversized scarecrow pointing down the direction, like, come on down. So I'll be meeting with Main Street to make sure that that coincides with what we're doing, and have all some materials for people that if they do stop into the chamber office, that we have something to offer them as a map or things to do, and encourage them to stick around and check it all out. Interesting enough, we were contacted by American Pickers. Anyone know that? So They emailed the chamber asking if we would promote their attendance in October, and I'm just mentioning this because if it is of interest to you, contact the producer who contacted me. Unfortunately, it didn't really fit for what the chamber's role is, because they specifically said in their message that they do not want to work with businesses, museums, antique shops, things like that. They want to work with the private homeowners, the landowners. And so, if you know what the chamber's all about, it's about businesses and that such. So I did reach back out to them and suggested that they might want to talk to the city, or maybe you guys want to reach out to her. Is that, if that's something that of interest to you? They were going to be here in October. So again, please let me know if that's something that you would like to follow up with, because I don't know if they will take that, my heat, and take that next step. But you do understand that specifically said no businesses, kind of.
Well, I think that's definitely something we could help promote for anybody who wanted to, thought they might have something that fit that category, especially if we would put it on our city site. Because of Halloween Town, and Danielle, the girl that's involved in that, probably wants to make it out this way, and so they figured at the same time.
They're coming through Oregon in October. I was personally excited. I'm like, I have an old farm. Check out what I got.
So you never know what might be out there, and
Exactly.
that's the county commissioners too.
Exactly. So we were in the Kiwanis Parade in June. The chamber was celebrating 75 years as the South Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. So that was fun. I've never been in a parade before, so I will definitely do that again. Speaking of, I know that there's a parade happening on October 1st that ties in with the Halloween Town. We're just basically increasing awareness of the chamber and with our local events. I'm trying to use the window displays at the chamber more often. People are walking by, I can hear them looking at the things outside the window. I'm promoting things that are happening here in St. Helens. Your Thursday concerts were definitely up there. I know you guys got something coming up for Castle Building in August.
It
So,
already happened.
oh,
It was great.
Okay.
Yes, it was awesome.
well, it's been up on my window. Anything that you are sending me as far as, what's happening in St. Helens, I'm getting it in the newsletter, or I'm promoting it up on our windows as much as I can.
Corn dogs this Thursday.
That's right, yeah.
Come check them out. They're fun.
I am making some trips to Vernonia and making some friends there, getting to know some of the businesses. That's been kind of a interesting ride, so to speak, but we are making progress, and I'm not really going there with my big chamber hat and my sales pitch on. I'm just trying to just get to know them and make sure that maybe some of the things that happened in the past are turned around and have a positive relationship with those businesses. And I do believe that we'll be seeing some new memberships coming in from Vernonia pretty soon. So that is exciting to me. And we're going to be offering some classes working in conjunction with CET and Keep It Local. Paul referred to the Marketing 101 class. These types of things can be offered at our chamber location. That's kind of the tie in there too with the partnership. We have a great location to offer these classes. And so anytime that we can work with them on that level, that's another opportunity for us to give back to the community as well. Member support, we are always, I'm always striving to do best I can and make sure that all my members are getting the attention that they need, especially if they're reaching out to me for something specific. We are consistently trying to build on our improvements with the relationships. I think the biggest thing for me is following up and following through. That would be what is very important with this. And maybe some situations in the past didn't have that opportunity, and I'm making sure that that's happening. So we did the small business week, kind of a small promotional deal. We took 7 days. We had 7 different businesses that I had created the categories for, and our board chose out of 3 or 4 different businesses in those categories, which one would be the winner. So that 7-day stretch, we had food and beverage was one of the winners, home improvement, home and garden. And so I was able to take each one of those days of that week and just have a little video with the winner of that. And then they gave a little prize back to the chamber. We put in some money with a gift card, and then people who commented on our Facebook posts or Instagram were the drawing to win that prize. So it's kind of come full circle. I'll be wrapping that up in my next newsletter with showing all the winners now of those prizes with their prizes in hand. And so just another way to let everyone know that the chamber is out there and we are gonna be active. And talk about active ribbon cuttings. Back to back to back. We are booked with ribbon cuttings pretty much every 2 weeks through the end of September, and they just keep coming. So I think one of the things I'm reminding our members of is that ribbon cuttings are not just for new members. They are for members who could be celebrating their first year anniversary, 10 years, providing new services, having upgrades on their buildings or what have you. I mean, there's multiple reasons why you can have a ribbon cutting, and I think people are being more aware of that, taking advantage of that. I think that's wonderful. It's a good promotional opportunity as well. So I encourage you, if you hear about the ribbons cuttings, please come join us. We'd love to see you. We are expanding our board of directors. We now, even though we've lost Dan Rocha and Dana Lathrop, we replaced them with Kyle Boggs and with PUD. He's in the marketing and promotional section there of the PUD. So he's now our marketing person on the board, working with him on our website and some upgrades there. Darren Wallace with Hurleman CPA is now our treasurer. So if you remember in the past, it was Alex Tardiff who was serving both president role and treasurer, and people we had no one to fill that spot. So I'm glad to have Darren on board and been really good working with him. Rhonda Hills with Tycor Title is now a director on the board as well, and she's going to be very helpful in our events committee. Got some good ideas, and just the thing I love about her is she loves to do public speaking, which not everyone does. Appreciate that. So if you got someone who's like, I can do that, no problem. That's wonderful. So she's great to work with on many levels. We're now planning our annual meeting banquet. It's going to happen in March of 2023. So we will just keep you guys posted as to what's happening there, but we're hoping for a back to the normal big banquet, auction, awards for the local small businesses, things like that. We kind of missed that throughout COVID, so we're bringing it back. Speaking of our ambassador programs, we do have the 4 committees that are currently established. We worked those down from 6. The membership committee is no longer, because that's me. And the education committee, basically, like I said, we're partnering with CET and Keep It Local. They're kind of taking that aspect, so we're just gonna let them run with that. We'll partner with them as much as possible. Our current committees then would be our networking, events, marketing, and building use. And the last time I was here with my 2 board members, I heard loud and clear that the chamber could use a little bit of curb appeal, which takes money and it does take time. I'm working on that. So I have tried to put a few things out there and keep it looking as nice as possible within the budget and the time that I have. So I just want to let you know, I heard that and I agree with you. It could use a little bit of TLC. So we'll see what the building use committee can come up with doing a few more things. A couple of things we had in mind that I was thinking about was like the kiosk. I would like to see it lit up at night. Love to have a digital reading board, but that might be up. But just things like that, I think can make all the difference with advertising. People will be maybe stopping by to see if it's a larger board or more advertisement or lit up, something like that. So one of the things I have in mind. Just with those ambassador programs, each committee is run by a board member as the chair or co-chair. And then of our ambassadors, we're building on that as well. We have 10 new ambassadors. And then 4 of the ambassadors we had from previous last year returned back. So we're growing that even more. I've got more ideas for people to be brought on as more ambassadors, and people are interested in actually coming to us and approaching us if we can invite them in. So that's really exciting to me. Community involvement and legislative updates. We are, every time that the city has sent out a request or even sent out a posting, I'm paying attention to that. I'm putting that in the letter. I'm putting that on the kiosk board. I'm putting it in the chamber. Whether you're asking me to do it or not, it's important, obviously, because it's being put out to the community. So I'm paying attention, sharing that in my newsletters and such. Job postings as well. I've got a job posting board in the chamber, and I'm encouraging my members to tell me if they're looking to hire, and I make copies of that information, put it in this portfolio or board, if you will. So the information's are in front of them. Will come in from the public looking for work. They can take a flyer. They've got all the information they need, and hopefully move further into that, for that position to be filled by themselves. So, trying to help everyone go back to work. And, we're currently in the plans to hold a candidate forum. I'm reaching out to Commission, House, Senate, those candidates who are up for reelection to come here to St. Helens to be asked some questions by a panel. Those questions would be, the chamber would reach those lists of questions by reaching out to our members, asking your feedback to give the questions you'd like to hear. And then we would be choosing of those questions which seem the most appropriate. So we don't have the crowd yelling out certain questions that, could cause chaos or what have you. But things that are really important to St. Helens, we want to hear from those candidates. So more on that, and I will be keeping everyone aware of that in my newsletters as well. If you want to know specifically details on those, I can reach out to you and let you know. And definitely want to hear feedback as far as questions might be. Okay. That would be on September 29th. I'm hoping we can get them all here. Hosting 2 gift shops per year. We did a summer one and wasn't as successful as the winter one, but we'll be bringing the winter gift shop sale back just after the Thanksgiving holiday. Hoping that will do just as well as it did last year. I'm going to go to the SAFE comment here. Just, SAFE is a company that's a nonprofit. They lease our building and they are in a 2-year agreement. So they're going to be with us for this next year through May. I love having them there. I think they're a wonderful group. They do really great things for the community. Hoping that after that 2-year contract that we would enter into another contract with them again. If not, we will find good use for that chamber space. Speaking of the building, we approached you and the county back in February regarding maybe trying to get someone to work with me in the office and as a visitor center coordinator. Those pursuits, the funds didn't play out so well, and I honestly haven't had the time to really move forward with that, as my priority really is to support the members. So unfortunately, we will not be continuing on as a visitor center. We're going to be removing that from the top of the building as a sign. We will still remain the Chamber of Commerce, of course, and I just want to let you know that I personally will do my best to still provide assistance to all the local citizens, tourists that are coming in, anyone in the community who has questions about St. Helens, South Columbia County. We're still dedicated to serving the needs of our areas. And anytime that I can refer businesses here in St. Helens or Scappoose, the areas that we serve, I am there to do that. So I just want to let you know that just because we are no longer the visitor center moving forward, we're still going to serve that capacity and be as helpful as we can to keep business coming through our area. With that, I thank you all for taking the time to hear from me today. Any questions, comments, or follow-up that I can offer?
Comment, I attended the food bank ribbon cutting and then the evening festivity, and so it was really good to see the presence of the chamber ambassadors and board members and all that. So, and then other occasions I've gone to went to a couple of new businesses that have opened up here recently and inquired about. One thing I inquired about is how they feel the city responded to their needs as they're establishing their business, and very positive responses, but also in terms of relationship with the chamber and with Main Street Alliance and all. And it was good to hear that these new businesses, I think, felt supported by both the chamber, keep it local, Main Street. So I'm really glad. I think the positive vibes related to the chamber compared to previous years, and of course impacted so severely by COVID. So I think some good work is happening and hearing some good comments in the community.
Glad to hear that. I think a large part of that is turnover. You have turnover year after year. It's hard for consistency to be there, and so that's what's been happening, so. I want
Thank you for your in-depth report. It's very informative. Very appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much. If there's anything that you wanted me to provide to you,
I'm just gonna make a comment on that. If you are indeed taking the visitor center sign down, the city participated in the cost of that. If you need somewhere to store it, if there's any need to bring it back someday.
Sure.
So we don't have to get a request in the future to put
okay,
it back up there.
that sounds great to me, yeah. We've got the two of them on the roof. And they just basically covered up our old sign, but we still want to keep the branding moving forward, so we will still put something on front of the old sign, but although the old sign was really cool, I don't know if you remember what it looked like. Like,
So,
it almost had like a font like saloon. So really cool, but.
Well, I have something to add as well. The Kiwanis sign that's out front, on the, Kiwanis is, in a process of redoing that sign, paying tribute to all our service club members, in our community. And that would be the Lions Club, Rotary, and Kiwanis at this point. They're putting up the website, for each one of those. And so that's gonna be it's gonna be I think a very, very much improvement in that, to that sign in that area.
Great.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
it's in your garden.
Yeah. Sounds great.
I just look forward to the annual banquets, but
All right,
those are good, so.
all right.
Comment on the group who likes to pick stuff that you want to talk to
Oh, American.
businesses. If you get up into the attic of the train station, and right now you have to pull the light out, because it used to be a trap. There's a huge amount of memorabilia in that attic of the Houston train station.
That's interesting that you say that. I need to know where that attic is, because you're not the first person to refer to an attic in the building.
You know, in the back room, just before the offices, there's a fluorescent light.
Okay,
That fluorescent light used to be a trap door.
really? So you're saying there's a bunch of,
You need a ladder to
Stuff
go
up
up
there.
there. There's the original signs and some of the other stuff.
Mr. Mayor, you want to come help me get up in there?
I don't know, I could, but I don't know about no trap door.
It'll take a lot on that.
Sounds like there's a lot of spiders up there
It's
too.
like Halloween town all over again.
Thank you.
Although I did have a bat visit me the other night inside my house.
You can train them to come back.
I will look into that.
Yeah.
I really will. Thank you.
That came from the old train master, or harbor master, his assistant, 3 years ago.
Well, and interestingly enough, we had a gentleman come in the other day. I think he stayed for 2 hours. He had worked in the train station and in his younger days, after coming back from the war, and he did the telegraph. So everything that came through, import, export, was all on the trains. His job was to take lists, everything that was coming and going. And so he was telling me stories, walking around, and oh, and over here is where we did this, and you know, the back area. Oh, this was never here. This was all warehouse. So I thought that was very interesting as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that stuff.
yes, you can give me a call if you need help with that trap door.
Hey,
We can figure it out.
you all heard that. You have it in the notes.
Non-record.
It's a 12-foot ceiling too, so take an extra long ladder.
We have a ladder.
So, you know, you might, if there's some really good stuff up there, you might be able to talk to your board and have those pickers come look it over and maybe remind them you're a nonprofit. You get a good donation from them.
That's true. Depending on what it is, though, maybe you want to display it. That's pretty cool too.
Maybe they also can get some free advertisement on national television,
I know, right?
yes,
I think
and
they should.
throughout the paper, so. It's kind of a, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, let's get a debriefing of our Citizens Day. Mr. King, lead the show.
Here with
Okay, so for anybody who who's watching that doesn't know what Citizens Day is, it's an annual event that is organized and hosted by City Council and the City of St. Helens. We've had it for about a half a decade now. It's a day that we encourage people to go to one of our local parks, disconnect from technology, and meet their community members outdoors. We hosted it on June 25th this year. There's always a free barbecue lunch, live music. The car show was huge this year. That was amazing to see. And we had a huge vendor area with each vendor. We requested that they have an activity that they hosted at their booth. We had about 800 people that were served meals this year. So we anticipate we probably had 1,000 or more people show up because not everybody is partaking in the free meal. There were 48 vendors who showed up to the event. We had a lot of positive, yeah, we had a lot of positive feedback about having vendors there and activities. It really does add something special to the event. A lot of positive feedback from attendees. It was great that we had an early planning process this year. We selected a date, I think it was back in January, for the year, and it allowed us a lot of lead time to reach out to vendors, volunteers, communicate the event out and advertise it well. We created section leads this year as well. Within staff, Lisa was the event lead this year. I did communications, and I want to particularly thank Christina and Jamie this year. Christina led the organization of all the vendors, so soliciting vendors, organizing them leading up to and during the day of, and Jamie coordinated all of our vendors and did a lot of outreach with them. We can't do it without our volunteers, so I want to make sure we do thank the volunteers that showed up. This takes a village to put this event on. So we're very appreciative of the volunteers that show up for this event, both staff and our community partners. We had a lot of support from Public Works and the recreation staff. That's essential to making this event happen. If we don't have the Public Works staff willing to come in on a weekend to help set up and clean up the event for us, and rec staff that are there to help organize some of the free activities that we have in addition to just the park being there, this event couldn't happen at the scale that it does. And a special thank you to CERT, who did traffic control this year for us. That was amazing. I think you said they had 10 volunteers. We had 10 CERT volunteers that showed up to help direct traffic, and with both the vendors and citizens coming, that was extra helpful this year. So we have a breakdown of both our staff time and volunteer time and expenses for the event. So we had a total of $5,919 donated to the event, both whether it be through equipment or food or monetary donations to the event. We ended up having to pay $593 out of pocket. Luckily, we had, I think, 2 donations of 23.
Yeah, 3.
That helps offset the almost $1,700 that the event would have cost the city this year.
75%.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure.
Yeah.
So factoring in how much was donated and purchased, the event for the actual physical stuff that we have to buy for it, it's about a $7,500 event that we put on. Donation.
Not bad for everything that happens in that day.
No, but yeah, thank you to people who donate, but
Yes.
we rely on those donations to keep that cost as low as it is. And next, our volunteer staff time to make the event happen. I don't know what that graph on the left.
Oh, sure.
As far as.
So the regular hours that are green, that's staff time that was spent leading up to the event, doing all of the planning, maybe running around, picking up things. And it's also some of the staff time afterwards, following up. The green one, comp hours, it's a little smaller. That's just that day, how much time, like Public Works, park staff, myself, Crystal, other staff that was there, the comp hours that we were out there. Volunteer hours, the yellow 145. that. A lot of that is CERT team. There were 10 of them out there. They were there for about 7 hours, so that's significantly. But basically the volunteer hours was just for the day of. We used a lot of people, thankfully.
Yeah, and then you see on the other graph, we totaled the costs of staff labor, what the rate would be, if we were paying people to put the event on.
What's total
Burden.
fully
Burden. So burden is benefits. So PERS, healthcare, et cetera. If you were to hire out for these same people to do this event at what our salary is with benefits, that would be what it would cost.
Okay, so that's not in addition to the total.
No. I think 9,000 is just the wages.
Yeah.
If you calculate it in what it's actually fully costing the city with benefits, that's 15.
6, 7.
Any other questions about that side?
No.
Oh. So I want to talk about feedback during and after the event. We had a debrief meeting with staff after the event, but I want to put it in context as we discuss it with the following slide that we're going to land on, which is some questions and direction that we need from you as council regarding this event. What you want this event to be, and where we host it and how we host it. So we definitely need more assistance for the event. I mean, even with who we had this year, there were still gaps in some areas where we could have used more volunteers and both from the community and city staff to run the event. Timing of the event. We obviously landed on a day early in the summer this year. It's generally a summer event that we try to host it as. It was already a 90-degree day in June. We discussed what it would look like if we moved it to a different time of the year, next year. There's big concerns in July and August about very hot temperatures and the potential for wildfire smoke. So staff doesn't feel like July and August are good options for hosting this event, just given those two risk factors. So if we're looking at a summer event when kids are out of school, we're looking at June then. June already has, after school gets out, the Kiwanis Parade, which happens the third weekend in June every year. We have 4th of July weekend, which generally happens that weekend, 2 weekends after that. So that leaves us really one weekend in June, which is the weekend we hosted it on. It does mean that it is 3 weekends in a row that we are asking both community volunteers and city staff who are pretty heavily involved in all 3 of those events to work 3 weekends in a row. 4th of July shifts around a little bit, obviously, but taking into consideration that's a paid day off for city staff, we're still asking them to come in for 3 weekends. I'll put in air quotes in a row. So do we want to maybe host it in the fall? We don't like that idea because of Halloween Town. I think we can all agree on that. Do we host it in the spring then, when kids are still in school and risk it raining? I don't know, things for you to consider. There's also school sports that are happening then. School is like a weird time to host a big community event.
I think the 4th weekend of June is good. I know it's busy. I get it.
Yes, so that was another thing that came up, was the staff burnout of if we're doing this 3 weekends in a row of events. We had feedback, I think, did you distribute the email from Judy?
Yes.
You have an email from Judy Thompson, who is an awesome volunteer at a lot of things that sort of address some of the same issues we as staff discussed during our debrief, which is there's a lot of volunteer burnout from those 3 weekends in a row when we're asking them to commit to, that 3rd weekend of doing stuff for us. Staff is heavily involved in prep, particularly public works and parks, for those 2 events, 4th of July and the Kiwanis Parade. So it's 3 weekends of asking people to come out in full force for all of this. On top of which Public Works and Parks, have their own jobs that they do during the week, that this year there was 2 Public Works emergencies that happened the Friday before the day of the event, and they wasn't sure if he could even get any staff over to help them set up at McCormick Park in preparation for the next day. We managed to get it done, but that's the risk of with us relying so heavily on staff that already have jobs that when we're talking about critical infrastructure, those things take priority over this event. The space, so let's talk about McCormick Park. It's our biggest park. It's a great park. It doesn't have the infrastructure right now to meet the demands of this event, especially at the scale it was this year. We didn't have enough electricity for vendors
We
or,
actually did.
well, we did with renting
And
generators.
we know, but they never even got used. They never got
Yes.
used. Just so you
We
know.
also advertised specifically though too, that I just want to confirm, we made sure that we had vendors that didn't use electricity as much as possible. So if we had opened it up and had electrical capacity like we do for down here, we likely would have had a lot more vendors that came that would have shown up because we have electricity. We definitely need more water. I don't know if you know the specifics of the water requests.
A lot of that was like
The
drinking
for-
water,
for-
but yeah, but as
okay.
far as the power, we had several cancellations at the last minute because of the heat. So that's why we didn't need the generators. Yeah, just because vendors canceled.
So, I mean, this turned into kind of an event that just started with an idea and I actually edited up this whole thing
Yes.
to begin with.
Yeah.
And did a lot of this myself and did ask for staff help the day of was it. It has grown quite a bit, but it is our park. It is what it is. We deal with it and we make it happen. We could talk to Mohammed and get some more power sources out there. It's not that hard. The water source, I know is a little bit of an issue. We do get water donated from Skinnies, so we have plenty of adequate water there if we need bathrooms. I did not reach out to Hudson, but I definitely could do that. And so I get a lot of this, but it seems like where you're going with it is like changing dates and changing locations and it's kind of what it feels like. This, so I wanted to make it clear that it is a lot of work and you girls have definitely taken it to another level. And you actually helped take it to this level. So be careful on your presentation as far as what we're talking about here. And I think we can definitely.
Please engage us as early as possible in this process now that we know that.
Now we can have it ready. Yeah, we are working on it now. And I know that June serves our citizens the best. That's what this is about.
No, I agree. If it's gonna be in the
Yeah.
summer, it needs to be in June,
Yeah.
and it has to be that weekend.
Yeah,
But this is all, we're telling you everything right now so that you can weigh
sure.
the direction that you are going to give us.
Yeah.
So I want to continue with some of the feedback that we got from staff.
Right.
CERT, parking was an issue this year because we had all the vendors that we had. It took up a lot more vendor space because they tried to park them further out at McCormick, but by the time all the vendors had parked and citizens started coming, CERT said they already had to go to overflow parking at Old Portland Road at the rec center right away as the event started. CERT cannot act as crossing guards at Old Portland Road and 18th Street because there is no crosswalk there. So that's part of their protocols where they cannot help people get across there because there's an absence of sidewalks and crosswalks. So that would leave it up to us to figure out how to safely get people across since we can't have CERT signaling that
That's
for them.
a definite concern there.
And yeah, there's just not enough parking at this level for everybody. And it's obviously residential areas surrounding it.
If we get this big park down here, this will be the next greatest state right down
Well,
here.
that,
Right?
we're gonna talk about that.
That's
Yes, we're gonna talk about that. So, yeah, let's go to the next slide. The things we want to hear from you. How big do you, well, let's talk about like, what do you want this event to be? Do you want it to be a big event like we had this year with all the vendors, all the activities? Or do you want it to be a event that doesn't have all the vendors, but is just a day for people to come to the park and connect, and maybe there's a car show and a band? But one of the other things that we heard was, this is Citizens Day, right? We're calling it Citizens Day for citizens to come and connect. And while that does, yes, potentially mean connecting with nonprofits and other community groups, those groups are also our citizens, and we're asking them to basically work the day at a booth or volunteering at an event that's supposed to be about recognizing our community members. So what do we want this event to be? Yeah, okay.
It's gonna be tough
Do
talking.
we want it to be large scale, or do we want it to be something that's just encouraging people to come to a park, enjoy free barbecue and have live music? If we want to move it somewhere else, that's more manageable for the scale that the event was at this year. That would, yes, mean we are asking that it gets moved to Columbia View Park after construction happens down here. There's adequate water, electricity, there's plenty of surrounding parking for all the vendors and the people. There's crosswalks that would make it easier. We could shut down the Plaza Square like we do for all of our other events in Strand Street. And we would have a new shiny park that we could welcome people to come down here and hang out at. And if you do want to have the event next year, but move it the following year to Columbia View Park, can we make it a smaller event, or there's a possibility, do we pair it with something else that's already going on next year, like a movies in the park night with the rec program? All things to consider. Did I miss any? I don't know. I don't think we're asking for answers or specific direction from you today. This was more about presenting what feedback we had from staff and from volunteers, and asking you to start considering what next year is going to look like. And we can come back at maybe a September council meeting to discuss further and get some concrete direction from you. We would like to have a date planned if we're going to have it next year, probably by January.
Well, let's think about it in another way. We're talking about Columbia Park down here. That's one. If we had water, electrical equipment at McCormick Park, that's second area we can use. There are times we need two areas. The size of the areas is another discussion. We have baseball fields you can't park on, but beyond the baseball fields, if we clean up some of the gravel piles, we have a lot of parking out there. But that's gonna take transportation from way out there in. I would think about going bigger. The time is something you're gonna have to flip a coin on, but don't ever think about reducing. Yes, we are gonna need more facilities. We should have better power and water there for vendors for any number of reasons. I mean, why not have two events in one day in this town? I'd like people from tourism to come to this town. They have two things to see. So somehow adjust where you put the citizens event is yet another question. So let's not throw this away as a possible venture for having big meetings. The one thing that this park has, kids can run around on the grass, square feet of just running around to get across Old Portland Road, throw in a couple of sidewalks and get some guys with cans of paint and put a crosswalk in. We're gonna redo Old Portland Road anyway, let's start ahead of time. Let's not call it a kill and don't even think about that. I think we have to think of some more solutions before we make any hard decisions.
That was a very thorough debrief. I really appreciate the effort that you went through, not only in creating and working through the event, but also a debriefing. And that is, to me, one of the most important areas of events, is to talk about what went right, what went wrong. And you did that, I think, very effectively. Mr. Topaz is starting to brainstorm already, and that's welcome. And there are some kinds of things that he said something interesting to me about combining events. Like the Kiwanis Parade and possibly there's those potentials that have been probably really thought of as much as they could be. The other thing is that I see that this is only going to get bigger and better every year. It's obvious. And so where's this going? I think it's going right into our event directors wheelhouse. I kind of think that it's going that direction, and that would alleviate so much of the staff tension and burnout and those kinds of things. So there is a lot to be talked about. And I don't think putting it on the back burner is a good thing. I think the sooner the better. So whatever we do with our agendas, this should be on it. And or we could take a retreat of some sort and really kind of iron things out when it gets close to what we want to do. Okay, after we consider all our options. But thank you for the debrief.
Comment on the staff helping. They were a big help and they were having a lot of fun and they filled in things that you didn't think about before, but they handled the question very well. The staff were to get 2 hands patted on the back.
Yes,
No doubt about that.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, just no, it was great. It was a great event and appreciate your candid feedback and sooner rather than later, having this back on our agenda is important to I'd actually hope that we have at least a date prior, for sure, confirm the date before January, as far out as possible, do that and then build on that. So anyway, come back to us soon.
So,
Is there anything that you need staff to do on our end to have this as an agenda item, or do you just need us to show up?
That's all the money right now.
Well,
so I just think that, I mean, this is a great event. I think it should still always be city. It is about us. About people meeting the elected officials and the department heads and our public. Everybody in every department actually steps up and helps out in this event. It's our biggest park. It has a beautiful playground and a creek running right through it. I think we need infrastructure there no matter what we do. So I agree that I heard Councilor Topaz discussing that. Because we've already opened up and shown people that it can be done. And I think we need to have a Ferris wheel.
It's interesting that you say that, but he says it for a reason, and the reason is the kids go crazy on that day. I mean, the kids' park is full, they're running all around, and
And I did pretty much run around to almost every vendor. And all of them were having fun. All of them, even though they were working, they were absolutely loving it. They were doing out free popsicles. They were doing all kinds of things. So it was a great event, and it couldn't be done without staff, that's for sure. We have grown this to very big. So I was like, wait a minute, you guys are shooting yourselves in the foot because you guys have helped the thing grow so much compared to what it was. But it was really just trying to keep it as simple as possible originally. And so maybe just keeping that in mind, maybe not grow it as much, no Ferris wheel, but keep it right sized. And not go, it works pretty well. It comes up, the car guys show up early, but it starts literally at about 9 in the morning for the earliest people. And it's over by 3. So it's wham bam, and it's great.
The one thing that you did not calibrate or measure, and I don't think you know how, the people were happy. As you saw, these people weren't grumpy when they were getting their food or this, the whole crowd was happy. There was a buzz there that we haven't seen in a long time.
yeah, so I think you asked Crystal whether or not we need staff to, or want staff to come up with anything. I think it would be important for each of us counselors to make sure that we maybe have a prepared list of things, or make sure that we contact you, that we make them to contact, provide maybe our questions, and of course, we're not communicating. We're just with each other, but we submit to you ideas and suggestions or questions that perhaps they could be synthesized by staff people. But I do think rather that it would be important for us to make some of those comments ahead of time before the next time, so that it's not coming to staff cold, it's not coming.
So we will do a little debrief ourselves now that we've had this discussion. I mean, for example, for me, I'm the advocate of our Parks and Rec and what they were doing there. That was pretty cool with the little water guns, the little things that was going on. I think that's something that is, like we already do, it's in our wheelhouse. It was a great event. You guys did
yeah.
You did a fabulous job, and staff did work their butt off. It was not, I mean, it was noticed.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I have to, sorry, I have to tell you why I was laughing earlier in your presentation. So my vehicle is parked.
Yeah, I noticed that you went out and grabbed some.
And and there was I noticed a gentleman riding on a bike and stopping, bending over, doing my vehicle. Then I saw he was picking up a hat. With my hat that I had, I guess, when I grabbed my bag out of the vehicle lying in the street. So he grabbed my hat and he put it on by the windshield of my car. So I was looking at that, and because it's very important, it's a 200, so it's a very pricey hat that has given me a lifetime of discounts at a certain.
Your rider hat?
At certain establishment. And so it's a very valuable hat. Anyway, so that's why I was laughing, because I saw that, like, oh my gosh, what a nice thing that citizen did, or whoever, picking up the hat and putting it on there. So
I want a hat like that.
you gotta pay for it. I had to pay for it. Okay, so anyway, so yes, you have to pay for the hat, and that's why I was laughing during that time. About things.
I will agree with that. It was very in-depth debriefing.
Yeah.
Very, very in-depth. So.
Yeah.
The purpose of it was to align expectations between council and
Yep,
staff,
yep.
right? The weather was different, it would have probably been a lot different.
Mhm.
We've had years where it's poured rain and
Yeah.
so it's a little different vibe. But
I know it's very busy, but I don't see any other weekend. I mean, kids are literally getting out June 13th, you know?
If you wanted to stay a summer event, what staff landed on was it has to be that weekend.
So I think, as Councilor Chilton still listening in,
Yes.
I mean, we're gonna at least set the date if we all agreed on that, you know? Do we have problems with our audio, Councilor Chilton? Are you able to hear us? We all kind of agree on the date?
Yes.
Go ahead, nod. Yes. So you have that much. It was nice, this kind of challenging us to challenge each other too, on where we want to go with this. Yeah. So, thank you very much.
When would you like this back on the agenda again for discussion?
We just want to take off with the ideas and maybe everybody just kind of keep in mind what they might think they might want for expectations.
I think it might be good for us to, I know I work better with deadlines, so it would, at least maybe not coming back to the meeting here, but that we have certainly provided, but I don't know, first meeting in October, if we did come back.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You know, September is pretty full.
Mm.
Okay, any other discussion points before and that? Lisa and. Thank you, Lisa. All right, let's review the city's monthly TM. Organization plan. Alvin and Sharon.
Almost as fun as this.
Yeah.
Sorry, not as fun.
Yeah.
To wait and proceed.
Oh, go ahead, proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Good to be back on the hot seat. We have a little presentation to you today about the TMDL requirements, and the best way we thought we can do that is by breaking down the background, the who, the why, and why we're here today. So give you a full picture of what is required. So the presentation outline in front of you is going to go over the TMDL overview in general, the requirements, impact of the water bodies, the mercury pollutant, and we're also going to talk about the implementation measures and next steps onto this process. So the TMDL requirements. I know Council Berkeley going to ask me, what does TMDL stand for?
No, because you have that in
Okay.
explained, I was, you.
Yes, okay. So the total maximum daily load is the calculation of the maximum amount of pollutant that enters into the water body, right? This has to be regulated by EPA, DEQ, and so forth. And in order to meet those, DEQ determines the pollutant reduction targets and the allocation load and the necessary reduction into the process of the pollutant from our agencies. So the biggest concern of the TMDL is the mercury, right? The TMDL for mercury is designated to restore the beneficial value of fish, right? Your fish, the actual department, the DHS has specifically advised about reducing the fish rate due to the mercuries into the fish, and how can we prevent that in the future, or at least regulate and make sure our fish habitat is very safe and whatnot. So this whole process kind of revolve around specifically the mercury levels. So here, to give you an idea on what areas are impacted in the Willamette River Basin where the TMDL is applied, the Willamette River Basin is basically a 187-mile stretch along major turbulence here in the city. And what does that impact from our end, where the city, McNulty Creek is considered a major turbulent in this basin, and also the Milton Creek. Those are some of the areas affected into this Willamette River that we also responsible for as what you call a designated management agency that we have to monitor and work with. The first TMDL mercury was established back in 2006 initially, and in 2021, March of last year, the TMDL was updated and now covers all intermittent streams in the Willamette basins. We at the City of St. Helens, as I mentioned, consider DMA, the designated management agency responsible for our portion of this one. And DEQ came to us back in March of 2021 last year and dropped this requirement on us all of a sudden that, hey, we have one more little thing for you to do to manage the pollutant, stormwater, et cetera. So this is, as I mentioned, is required by law now. It's a full type of responsibility we have to take, and there is a lot that goes through this. And to give you a comparison, is similar to NPDES, MS4, permits, and this is specifically to the TMDL. We have a meeting with all Columbia County directors and others, and we can probably say we're one of the very first to work really hard in this for the whole year, thanks to Sharon and our team in engineering. We've established a first draft, which is very due on September 3rd. That's less than 2 weeks, about 2 weeks from now, where we have to submit the full plan for approval and processing. And I'll pass the next slide to the implementation measures to Sharon to tell you a little bit about what goes into this plan, what do we need to do, and how is it going to be implemented moving forward.
So part of the plan requires that the city meet 6 stormwater measures that the DEQ has set for cities of our size. So basically, when we get to, I think that'd be over 15,000, we will probably get roped into the MS4 permit, which it's kind of good that we're doing this because
it's kind of the framework for it, and then so it'll just get rolled in to that. So we're kind of at least ahead on that. So those 6 stormwater measures, so the pollution prevention and good housekeeping measures specifically for city operations and city facilities. So basically we'll have to start monitoring and managing our pollutants, how we do construction and how we do work. We will have to start doing public education and outreach, basically brochures and social media website to let the public know about pollutants and how it affects the water bodies, like Mohammed said, McNulty Creek, Milton Creek. And we also, and it's actually in the plan, I just missed it on this, but we also have some jurisdiction over Multnomah Channel and Scappoose Bay. So those as well. The public involvement, the city will have to provide some participation and involvement events or activities for the public to get involved in stormwater control. We also have to start, we also have to develop and implement an illicit discharge and detection of elimination program.
Back to.
You want to? No, okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go through the overview. So this program basically, this will probably be the biggest chunk of this. We'll have to develop this program from the ground up. It'll involve public outreach, it'll involve mapping. We already do have a pretty good mapping system on our storm water. We'll have to know where all our outfalls are, we'll have to inspect them and do reporting on that. The construction site runoff control, we'll have to do some additional updates to our code on that. And start monitoring sites that are not only NPDES permit required, but also ones that are smaller. Basically less than an acre, but greater than a half acre. And they will also be required to do some erosion control measures as well. And then the post-construction site runoff will also have to update our code on this, and we'll also have to monitor how the sites are maintaining their stormwater facilities and stuff like that. So we can get into a little bit more detail on some of them. So the pollution prevention for municipal housekeeping. So basically, we have to monitor for our sites and for the city. And a lot of this can be done through street sweeping, which we do that on a regular basis already, but we'll have to start tracking either how much sediment we pull off of the street or miles of street that we sweep annually. We'll have to start managing how many catch basins we clean and keeping track. So a lot of it is just keeping track. We do a lot of it already, but now we have to keep track because we have to report on this every year to DEQ. We'll also have to do some employee training. We'll have to review all of the city facilities and ensure that if they do need a 1200Z permit for industrial activity, that they do have one. The only one that we have right now is the wastewater treatment plant. And that's probably the only one that we need that for, but we still have to do the review and show DEQ that we reviewed all of our facilities and that none of them meet that requirement. Next one is public education and outreach. So basically encouraging the public to the next slide, yeah. To correct their behavior regarding stormwater discharges by putting out brochures. We can have them available at City Hall. We can do billing inserts with the water bills. We can put something up at the public library. We also have to track when we put out these documents, like how many people are coming to the site or how many brochures, and that kind of stuff. The public involvement, participation, basically we have to provide opportunities for people to get involved in the process. This would be like volunteer work parties for like cleaning, like, you know, a roadside ditch or something, maybe cleaning a park up that might have like, you know, trash next to the water, you know, next to the creek or something like that. And we'll also be required to maintain a web page specifically for this as well. which I'm pretty sure could be roped into the public outreach.
So a lot of this we do already,
Mhm.
except for like the public involvement piece and the documentation of it.
Right.
The administrative piece of it is
Yeah,
very
so how
intense.
much do you think we're gonna be looking at as an increase in an employee to do all
Good question, Mr. Mayor. We're gonna get that at the end of it.
that?
You're ahead of the game. What happened there?
The next one is the illicit discharge. So this one we have to develop and manage an illicit discharge program. So basically illicit discharge is anything that's not stormwater that's going into the stormwater system, either through a catch basin or into the creek. That could be sewer overflows, that could be the overflows from septic tanks or cesspools, which we do still have some septic tanks and cesspools in the city limits. It could be floor drains, automobile, motor oil, or anything that somebody might be.
So it's up to us to try to detect these.
Yeah, and we're supposed to provide a way for citizens to report it, either with a phone number, or we could do it through a website. Where they could report it, and then we'll have to have someone go check it out.
Code enforcement would be a great
It
command.
would be for all that.
And so we'll also have to update the code, because the code will have to be, it'll have to have all the enforcement measures and all the fines associated with that. The construction site runoff, we will have to start providing, private development that's going on, information on erosion control, and if they're over 1 acre, then we'll have to get some kind of proof that they do have their NPDES permit. The new thing is for sites that are less than 1 acre now but greater than half an acre, they'll have to submit erosion control plans for those development. And I think, and Alex, he was great because he mentioned a really good way to do it is that we should start implementing our own erosion control permit for those particular sites. That's probably the best way to track those. Then the post-construction site runoff, so basically this is for implementing another program to make sure that the sites who have like the detention swales and all this sort of stuff on their property that's maintained by the HOAs, that they are maintaining it. And that we also have to check those, and we also have to have enforcement and an ordinance and fines associated if they're not doing that.
Sometimes these retention ponds are so planted and they're so overgrown within years.
Yeah.
How do you detect what's actually really going in there? It's like a small little dense forest. It really is. I mean,
So yes, those has to be maintained, and depending on the public right of way, obviously, public works take care of that. If they are on a HOA property, they will have to maintain that, and there is some proper requirement, reporting, and of course, the enforcement and management of those. It's becoming very real now for the city with this specific program.
So monitoring and reporting, we have to submit a report annually to DEQ in terms of monitoring. And one good thing, because of our size, DEQ is not requiring us to go out there and take samples of the water. We just have to show that we're doing all of these measures and meeting the measures. So we don't have to go to Milton Creek and take samples and test turbidity and all this other stuff, which is good. And then so the management strategies, basically, like Mohammed said, September 3rd, basically is when we have to start implementing them. Some of the measures are a little bit later, but there's at least 3 of them, I believe, that we have to start implementing right away. And so the next slide is just a snapshot of some of the implementation strategies. I can't even see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So the street sweeping, we already do that, so we'll start tracking. And Dave already knows, we're already working with him on starting to track the miles of street that we sweep. The catch basin and cleaning, which the public works staff already does that. We don't have a plan in place for cleaning the storm drains, so that'll be something that we'll have to start doing. And then the other stuff is just kind of educating the public, putting out that brochure for public education. We pretty much meeting the requirement for the public involvement right now, just because of, presenting the TMDL right now. and it being a public, a meeting. And the other stuff is pretty much just,
Just the monitoring and basically the administrative work to make sure we capture all these activities and tasks and report it every single year to DEQ in an official manner. Now, we didn't have to do any of that in the past. So on next steps with this process, and again, it's in your requirements to sum all that in a simple timeline for you and what will need to be done. You've seen all these tasks falls into one of these categories: pollution prevention program, public involvement, and the public education piece, which requires a lot of investment into setting up public meetings and the website and monitoring the website and the data and going out and do the measurements. Our team in Public Works do probably about 40% of the requirement, but there is about 60% that's going to require a full-time body to really manage all that, which is a challenge given all the great projects we have in the city and our amazing small engineering department, which has been reduced in the past from 7 full-times at some point, and we have only 10 or 8, from 8 to 10 FTEs to 3. And I can tell you, each engineer we have, including myself, stepping into that role now and managing projects is an overwhelming task. We've been doing it, and we are not a complainer. We do a pretty damn good job to make sure we help the city save a lot of costs. But I can tell you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, we are at a point where this stuff doesn't stop coming. And a requirement like this just takes a great deal of effort. If you recall in the past, we've talked a little bit about an internship program, which has been supported and approved by you, and then going through the budget. We had some stoppage and moving things, but I can tell you, we go to the next slide, please. This will require a lot of work on every level in Public Works. And I can tell you funding at some point will become an issue. And that will translate into, we need a full-time body in engineering to support our team. At any level, we can leverage that because the piece with the public, with the website, with the communication and the monitoring and submission for DEQ through this specific program will require a lot of work. And today we don't have that, but we will work with whatever we have. And at some point, potentially, we might come back and talk. And this would be a great example. Why do we need support in engineering? With that said, would like to welcome any of your questions and
Okay. We really have a mercury load problem in this town.
if we didn't, DEQ would not be asking us.
No, do we, that we know of, have a mercury load problem in the town?
Can you please be more specific? Like,
We have a, we'll say, gold refining place in this town, they use mercury.
I don't know.
Okay. My impression is we have an area that does not have an excess amount of mercury as far as a pollutant. But we just were handed a bureaucratic pile of whatever, because somebody thinks everybody ought to do this. It looks like we need 3 secretaries and a tech to do what we're already doing so we can document. That's kind of what I'm pointing out is we have to do it, that's the law. The happiness is why, because we're not in that condition. Would you describe that as kind of where we're at?
Council Topaz, I mean, I would think DEQ would have done an extensive research before they can bring this to a city like us and others. If they are not certain there is a mercury in the water or the stormwater being discharged in the Willamette River, obviously, they have to have a backup and a lot of data to support such a mega request as you've seen. And if we didn't have a problem, I don't think they would come. So there is probably a lot of merit to it. However, the magnitude, I don't know the numbers, I've never measured.
Because I'll agree with you, up in Portland and the upper end of the Willamette, they've got problems. I think if we dump 2 parts per billion in, we're dumping it into the Willamette, probably it's 100 parts per billion. We're actually cleaning it up. But I can see where the program got started. I was worried about here in St. Helens.
Well, remember, this is a 187-mile stretch, so guess what? Travel.
So we got 4
It
miles.
should start in Portland and end up here.
We're downriver. We're
We're
down-
downriver.
Yeah, it's a channel that is turbulent and
Yeah.
it's not stagnant.
It's not what we're causing, it's what we have to report. That's
We have to deal with someone else's problem.
yeah,
Well,
okay.
I think it's great for the education piece to the public, just keeping our waterways clean. I love this picture right here. I mean, that's what I do, I fish.
Yeah.
Electric boat.
That's your boat right there.
And, anything we can do to protect the fish and protect ourselves from what we are eating out of our systems, I think is great.
So part of that, I know I've been to some communities where they have little by drains and in city systems, a little salmon. Little fish says that, do not dump, this is I mean, so could the public education component be something like that we
Yeah.
buy all of our
Absolutely.
drain systems saying, hey,
Was it just like a little posting?
it's a little, it's a little painted thing, so there's like a little template that they, they sprayed, and it's like a picture of a salmon, it says,
Yeah.
do not, salmon protection.
Proactive is the best way to.
I think that would be considered.
Yeah.
Like that.
But even like manhole lids and things like.
Right.
that, they have foundry.
Yeah, I've seen those, yeah.
Yes.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
I've seen cases, I mean, the beauty about also this program, although it's a lot of work, but it has a great benefit to also other channels, not just Mercury, because we will be able to monitor and prevent also other dumping into the catch basins, oils,
Yeah,
other
it's
issues that we
essentially for
have,
all pollutants
or all
and
pollutants.
sediment going into storage.
All pollutants is one thing, mercury specific, well, it's easy to detect. It's, are we a mercury polluter here? In the river, yeah, there's a problem. In mining, there's a big problem with it. A naturally occurring problem that's nasty.
So, and I just wanna, I appreciate that. I know that you guys have been working on this and we're aware of these for quite some time and finally you've got it to this point. I can appreciate though that they asked for an employee too. I know that, it does require, what we've seen is not only do we have to document the public engagement piece, we have to also document all the miles of street sweeping. We have to document every catch basin that we clean out, when we clean them out. And our storm, and again, how does that go about? Do our storms have the actual catches in them too? Do we have to put diapers in? I know that for contractors, they put diapers and stuff like that in.
So good question, Mr. Mayor. So the erosion and sediment control permits that you probably heard this term a lot, we have been all certified the last year. I can tell you, our team is really amazing. All of us, including myself, have been certified as erosion and sediment control lead inspectors. This is a major cost that we would reduce the city as we start looking into construction size and requiring for those. So catch basins are protected in many ways. According to the best practices, there's, straws, something called straws. They put a fence of, specific materials around it to prevent any sediment going through it. So, and these have to be monitored and we know what needs to be there. Now we can inspect it, whether it's construction, small. In the past was 1 acre and above, and now they have reduced that, as Sharon mentioned, between less than half an acre and an acre.
Not a very big.
No,
footprint.
that's, and in a way, yes, it's more work.
Would you, but that's very small minimal fee to that? You're just looking for the documentation, right? That they're doing,
I would say there should be a small fee.
but very small for that half acre, because you're just basically wanting that piece of paper to tuck into a file, right?
Yeah, well, we need that, and then they're gonna have to submit plans, so we would have to still review it.
Yes.
So essentially would be like a plan review, but
Yeah, because I mean.
yeah.
we just,
So, yeah, for-
we just go through this process and just, we need to be careful on that part of the fee side. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, any other questions for Mohammed and Sharon?
Just a note on the economic impacts as far as stormwater, stormwater utility, the rates we charge, program projects.
Yep. Those up.
One of our funds that is not particularly healthy.
Yep. Never know that.
It's one of the problems, not addition.
Is there any financial help from the state in this?
Well, once we get a loan,
No, but I mean, in this law that they're putting out,
there's some grants that we could look into getting.
but they didn't say the state is gonna,
No,
state take care
they
of
were
it.
like, go ahead and let us know how you're gonna fund it.
You know, the state, they just goes on to the cities.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
It's up to us to fund it.
We have 4 different challenges now, MPDS permit, we have MS4 potentially, we have the TMDL with DQ. There's a lot of areas in DQ that can come and. All angles. It wants to.
DQ steps on them.
All right,
It's
Sharon.
interesting to hear that, you talked about staffing and the amount of individuals over the years that has dissipated to several. But what I take from that is that somebody in that department, and I'm just looking at the somebodies right now, I think, but they are becoming much more effective and efficient in what you're doing. And I can't tell you how appreciative this council is for that. It's my observation, but I think it's fact.
We have a good team and we work really good with public works operations. I mean, we just have a really good team right now and everyone is
I just think,
on board.
I'm gonna reinforce what Doug said, thank you very much, and also, wanted to let this council know, that, we have a lot of big projects going on, and we can't allow our engineers to be taxed right now, exactly. If we don't, we need to give them the help they need in order to get our goals accomplished.
Mr. Mayor, to be very frank, we take a lot of pride into doing the impossible before we come before you and ask for any help. I mean,
Yeah.
you can come to our board today and see how many projects we're taking, including myself as the public works director. I'm working as the engineer, as the support at every possible level, taking personally projects for one single reason. It's more work for all of us. We're overwhelmed already and have been. However, we have not come to you to ask for help because we're trying to do everything we can before we come and ask for that support. For a single reason, to support the city overall and help reduce any cost that we bring. Instead, we're trying to bring revenues through our updated fees and whatnot. So just so you know.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, and I think, right, you may not be asking, but it's important that you've made us aware. And is it too early? Are we already working on a list of wants and needs for the budget for the next year? I mean, that is something that you should kind of keep.
And it's not uncommon for the council to adopt and find money for a halftime. It's happened over years past, so that may be where we're going with this right now.
I would say for this one, we definitely need some help.
Yeah, because it's coming up.
Manage it.
Bigger than.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and it was just something that was plopped on. us.
Oh, yeah, right, which I understand.
And DQ, I mean, we probably would have done fine, but they moved up their timetable on us. And it's supposed to be 5 years before we had to implement.
We went from that.
And 4 years for us, but they want everybody in the state on the 5 year, and then so that put us at having to get everything done in a year.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay.
Yep.
Do it.
Aaron, thank you for all of your efforts, and I'm gonna excuse you and keep him up here, because I'm gonna have Aaron come up and join him now. Thank you, Karen.
About this reserve.
Had a lot of learning the other night. Well, this TMDL and now what
Yeah.
reserve allocation is.
Well, Aaron's gonna tell you a little bit about
So
the
BOD,
bond,
yeah.
the BOD levels are, or the goo.
You don't remember?
Yeah, you heard a lot from me. Actually, the discharge rate.
Yeah, we use the BODs to basically bill Cascade for their portion of the secondary living. So every year we come in and we bring this to the council to adjust the rates. The one we've been using in the past couple of years was 79.2%. You can see the numbers went up this year from the mill, it's up to 83.3. So basically what we do is this 83.3% we're proposing is going to be the base minimum that the mill gets billed for anything regarding the secondary living. If they go above that in any 1 month, they get charged the higher. So they'll get charged the higher of the two, the 83.3 or more. If they go below, they still get charged at 83.3. And this is
to help our budget, so we have, we know what's coming in minimum. Yeah, so.
You average it out there too, so.
Yeah, so these are the numbers. I went back and I looked there. It's a little bit higher from the mill. It's nothing out of, that's alarming. I think a lot of it may have been the fact that we had a drier year, so our numbers were probably a little bit lower. That may have helped, but then again, the mill's been running pretty steady, so.
That makes a difference too.
It's a difference too.
Yeah, it doesn't, it basically does influence our secondary.
Yes.
Been fairly consistent looking at the data from previous years, and thank you to Kathy brought this, and Jamie from Utilities brought this up to our attention, because I think we're a couple months behind on bringing this up to your attention, simply slipped.
Well, and we went off of the Boise use agreement for years, and that's no longer in place, but this part carried over, so. Yeah, I missed it earlier in the year.
Is there any problem with this if DEQ changes its rules on us? Or are we kind of insulated with this problem from DEQ?
This doesn't have anything to do with DEQ directly. The loading, however, from the mill can affect what DEQ gives us. So if they give us low limits that we can't meet, we may have to go to the mill and say, we need another option. We need you to cut your loading. We need to do whatever in order to meet those limits.
But they could blindside us with the way they rule.
I'd like to say no.
Yeah. But if you said that, you would, yes, you potentially could lose it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, DEQ, they're ultimate. They say whatever they say we have to do.
Okay.
However, they are willing to negotiate at times.
And I know that Aaron works with DEQ probably the most out of anybody, as far as in contact and anybody here.
Well, depends on the division, because DEQ, there's a lot of different
Oh, okay.
sections, and they don't work together.
Oh, really?
Very often.
I can show you, Mr. Lopez, a
Interesting.
couple important things here, right? We have a very, again and again, talented team across all the work. So when we receive anything, we pretty good at critiquing and making sure it actually meets requirement. It's not an overkill. We do our job and homeworks before we agree, and if something doesn't make sense, we always go back and argue that. So it's not like, yes, okay, we take it all. So 99% we are on solid ground because it's all really bad.
And are we just increasing the tiny bit of the minimum? Is that what, okay,
79.2 to 83.2.
okay. Yeah. Any other questions for Aaron on this? I think that's what he's here to kind of let us know what's going on in case we get a phone call.
Aaron, in going back to the previous present, do you as a standard measure mercury in the lagoon?
We do mercury testing quarterly. The limits that we have going to the river, our flows are so low that it's not, most of the testing that we do is not an issue on the Columbia. We have a flow of 88,000 cubic feet. These monsters, and that's why I keep telling everybody, and I think the mayor's finally understood that if we move the wastewater plant, we're not leaving that out.
Right. I totally understood that, and it helps cooling.
Yeah.
I've got it all right here.
Right. The point is that when we're seeing, we still got the paperwork and the following to do with the other rules, the monitoring of on and on and.
Well, and what the previous presentation was stormwater. This is wastewater, and they're two separate. In fact, I took the call from DEQ the first time, and I was frustrated. I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. We don't dump into the Willamette. Finally, she said something about stormwater. I'm like, that's
not me.
That's a different
Okay, so it's even more confusing.
Stormwater is absolutely different than wastewater, and which goes straight from storm.
You're thinking since it goes into the same river, you play the same rules.
it doesn't go to the same river. No, we go into the Columbia.
Right.
100 yards is not a.
But it's 100 yards in our favor.
I'm just glad that Aaron was saying that the channel is the Willamette River, because I got into an argument with somebody about this years ago. They said the Multnomah Channel is not the Willamette. It is. I know, it is. So anyway, I want to thank you for affirming
Yes.
that it is. I know it.
So remember, Scappoose Bay, Willamette, Multnomah Channel, McNulty, and Fort Lauderdale.
But we'll-
Milton Creek.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we appreciate the info. We're gonna take a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
You'll eat us till then.
No, I didn't.
And get back to. Okay, welcome back. And we will go on to our next item on our agenda, which is Comstock Plan Development Overlay Final Decision Considerations. And I'll turn it over to our city planner, Jacob Gretchen, who has 15 years of service with the city of St. Helens.
Count them out.
Thank you. So we're gonna be talking about the Comstock property quite a bit this evening. We have the subdivision, which is a separate matter. The other matter is the second reading of the ordinance that adopts the overlay zone. And when the subdivision was appealed, naturally, when we have appeal, we start talking to our legal counsel. And they suggested that we at least bring this up to you for consideration. We're not asking you to change a decision. But if you're compelled, when you think about the sanitary sewer issues, there's the potential tonight, the second reading of the ordinance, which adopts the plan development overlay. That ordinance is silent as to public facilities. Of course, sanitary sewer is the one getting picked on. And there is potential to include public facilities in the consideration of the plan development overlay, which could change how you look at it. And I think the timing of the appeal may get you to think about things in a certain manner. And the second reading just happens to be tonight. So we wanted to at least let you know that if there's something that you would disagree in the ordinance, for example, the lack of addressing public facilities, the second reading is the opportunity to tackle that. You would have to vote no against the second reading and then schedule deliberations to discuss your revised decision. Again, we're not asking you to take a stance at this time. I'm not making a recommendation as part of this. It's outside of a public hearing, anything like that. We just wanted to inform you of that option. And I think, based on how the subdivision goes, that'll kind of help frame how you're looking at this property. And this will make more sense, I think, later tonight after we go through all the rigmarole.
So, and the hearing tonight is about the.
Subdivision.
Subdivision.
Mhm. Yeah, they are related because the plan development overlay allows the flexibilities of the subdivision.
Yes. Now, the subdivision though would not meet the requirements of the R7 minimum standards that was.
Yeah, this is where we don't want to.
Is the hearing even, is it moot tonight?
No, it's just, there's two things. There's approving the preliminary plat.
Cause I'm more likely, I'm going to actually recuse myself, just so everybody knows. I'm not gonna have to take that meeting over just because of what has transpired prior to. But I'm trying to ask questions just because I have the ability.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so for example, and we don't want to talk about the subdivision too much because we have a hearing. And we don't want to get into details.
Yes,
But let's say,
but I think it's vitally important for me to know, so I know what, cause yes.
Yep. So let's say that based on, the record, the testimony, all that stuff, you have yet to hear, that you have an elevated concern about the sanitary sewer as it relates to the subdivision. And you're like, son of a gun. So if you're kind of in that son of a gun mode, it's possible to draw those same conclusions for the overlay zone. But because they weren't drawn before and they're not embodied in the ordinance, we'd have to take a couple steps back. That's only if, you're compelled to that. There's nothing that forces you to do it. But again, our legal counsel recommended that we at least bring this up in case that's the way the wind blows.
So really no outcome from the council tonight.
Yes.
Well, you are gonna be voting on this ordinance. my point is because of the subdivision, you're gonna be thinking about these matters
Even more,
again and even more.
yes.
And that may make you go,
Because that was the basis on the planning commission's decision. Correct?
The sub,
for the subdivision.
yeah, they're related but distinct. Yeah, so for the subdivision, it was raised by the planning commission, but not for the overlay.
Yeah.
So, and, I'm just trying to wrap my head again around this, because we have sewer issues everywhere, but we have implemented that $7. Cause I talked to you prior to this, about, at least to reach out to the planning commission, let them know that the city council has been active in knowing that we have insufficient sewers. And we did adopt a $7 fee, and we are gonna continue to implement those fees as years go on for the next 5. And when Steve Donovan approached us to address those sewer problems. And Mohammed and Sharon will be working on tackling those, yes. So I wanted to throw that out there too, because again, I don't wanna have people coming to us in any phase of development throughout our city. This could potentially be an issue everywhere. Are we gonna deny everybody? That's my question. I just, just as far as, and again, whatever you guys decide, if you decide, but I just know that this could potentially be an issue, because rumor had it that you talked to Dan Hatfield about the Simpson property and that there was insufficient sewer there. That's just rumor, so.
We have to talk to anybody about it. It's just it's the issue of the day.
Because he called me and actually Jeff Yarber called me and he said, well, I'll be dead in 4 years, so I ain't doing that project. Yeah, Hatfield's 80. It's a whole different area of town, but that is rumor that would be floating around out there. And I called John on it and was hoping to have some feedback prior to this meeting, but I didn't get any. So.
Yeah, and those are preliminary meetings. There's no formal decision. I think including that stuff.
But that's scary to be saying stuff like that to anybody coming in wanting to do a proposed development in our community.
Jacob, let's say I want to develop this thing over here and there's no sewer. In my resolution, do I have to say there's no sewer, you can't build there? Or do I just say in my resolution, you can't build there? I'm looking at the format of that resolution.
Yeah, I think
How I operate.
I don't want this discussion to get beyond the planned development overlay itself. Just because of the hearing tonight, I just.
Yeah.
If we want to discuss this more in a later meeting after all this stuff is
No,
done.
I agree with
fine.
you. I agree.
Yeah, I don't want to get dragged into it. Just know that there's this option.
Yeah.
And it's a tactical option if needed.
Hey, somebody's wanting to talk to me about playing psilocybin on the ballot. Ooh, big time breaking news. Sorry, real time text. Cold radio talk. I know, I think this is great discussion as far as the legal obviously is saying that this might help in another layer of protection, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, basically, if you're in a position to dig your heels in,
Yes,
if we.
yes, if we choose to.
Yeah, if it becomes a dig in heels,
So what I'm confused about, and I know that this does go into tonight's hearing, is that the planned development is an R7, which we'll be looking at tonight is showing something totally different. Really?
yeah, we'll get into that tonight.
Yes, yeah,
I think we should probably, abandon the conversation now.
okay. So worst case scenario is if we deny the ordinance. Did I even vote on it tonight? Cause I recused myself? I did.
You didn't
read it.
Did you recuse yourself on the overlay zone?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, so then no.
Yes, so I need to recuse myself. Okay, I just glad we're talking about it.
Yeah.
I would have just read it and been, yep.
Just another night.
Yeah. All right, I think.
And depending on how things go, I'll help navigate that later.
Other questions for Jacob, just on the planned, development overlay. And the reading, the final reading, no, okay,
Thanks.
all right.
Yeah.
I had to cut that short, because I started getting out into the weeds real fast.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna review proposed amendments to public works director job description, John.
All right, hopefully this is too controversial here. It's modernization, updating to our current policies and practices is with the public works director position. Updating the language, eliminating the duplicate language, which there seems to be quite a bit of. Supervision, there's a component there. State in line with the governing policy about supervision by the city administrator. Overseas, which are all in line with the part that they're currently set up.
I have two comments. Under minimum qualifications. It says undergraduate degree in civil engineering. And then later on, it says 5 years. That's basically, if we have a civil engineer, better have a PE. And it says master's degree preferred. What master's degree in art literature? Or MBA? I'd like to be a little more definitive on a master's degree.
Reflecting back on my career as a public works director, spent 7 years as a public works director. And I was at a public works director training seminar, and the person giving a class had a room full of people, and the person said, who in this room has is a professional engineer? And then half the class raises their arm up real proudly, and he says, good, hold them up there, because he says, remember that, because you're never gonna, if you use that while you're doing this job, you will be less of a worker. Skills and talents, your desire to get into the weeds of the work are just, it's not, you're a manager now. So you're managing projects, you're not doing the technical review of things. And I've kind of carried that throughout my career, and you'll see cities, and sometimes they do have PE degrees and things, and engineering and the like. But really, they're managing programs and people and results. And that's what this is reflected to do.
The way I would interpret it, it's either in civil engineering, public administration, or business.
Yes, because
Because it says undergraduate degree, but the math in these fields or a master's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what I'm saying is when you say 5 years experience and you tie it to civil engineering, you better have a PE. And then I wanted to find what kind of area master's degree would go in.
I think that's exactly what Kathy said is the only way I would interpret it, and that B is a distinct requirement apart from the degree.
The reason I bring that up, I worked in one industry and you couldn't get advanced unless you had a college degree. So we had some highly technical people on the floor, and we had an art major who got to be head of the department because they followed, I've got a degree, where the people on the floor who've been there 30 years weren't.
I like that.
I wonder why.
But I'm being fussy on that. If I've got a civil engineer who's got 5 years experience, he better have a PE,
PE being,
professional engineer. He's a licensed professional engineer. Public administrator, do they have a licensing for that, John?
I don't think that's, we just discussed that.
Yeah.
And again. It's about the city as a whole. We just discussed how a public works. You shake your head, you don't even allow me to talk.
Keep going.
Is it?
I can argue both sides of that, Rick.
Well,
I agree with you in one way and I disagree with
So
one.
you're literally getting into the weeds and wanting to micromanage because of your engineering background, and it's obviously abundantly clear right now what's happening. And that's what we're saying to Public Works Director, you do not want to have happen, is the way John explained it in a seminar that he went to at his 7-year mark with Public Works Directors, is that you are no longer micromanaging projects, you are overseeing an entire operation. It was very clear English, what was just described to us.
Yeah.
And you are continuing, because of your background, to micromanage and critique what you want. And it happens all too often, and we are a council as a whole. And you have made your point clear, and you will continue to beat it down into the ground and waste our time for another probably 10
I'm
minutes.
not wasting your time. Now, like the people I know at
We
Monsanto.
all have different opinions.
Well, I agree.
And so
I'm trying to get my opinion out.
And it is, and it is. We heard you.
Okay.
What I'm just saying is, we heard you. There's no reason to continue. If you have other points you would like to bring up, that's fine.
Okay, let's make sure we have a technical master's degree in that, because right now we just is master's degree.
No.
I don't think so, because it pigeonholes us when it
Because
comes to a point of recruiting and doing those kinds of things and who wants to be in that corner?
And
And we're not being wide open.
I'm not
Not like a
arguing-
pool chart.
we're not requiring that same thing at the bachelor.
I'll let our Public Works Director actually, have just a little bit of say in his, yes.
To make it very simple, Council Topaz, it's very simple. So the fact that the Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering is a requirement. Any person, I can guarantee you, 100% can apply for the Public Works Director will have a Bachelor in Civil and a Master 99.9% in engineering. Because you won't have someone with a Bachelor in Civil and a Master's in, healthcare. And it's a requirement in this world, anybody in that role specifically will be 99% in engineering background. And the Masters, you don't want to specify it to civil because it could be someone with a master's degree in mechanical, structural, but it will be in a science degree
Or an MBA.
or an MBA as well.
Or arts.
No,
But it wouldn't, it literally, the bachelor is really actually, it's a preferred, the bachelor is a requirement, and it probably just lead you there.
Sorry, but it's an or, it's not an and.
Yeah.
So we don't have to, it doesn't have to be anybody with civil engineering.
Yeah.
It can be somebody.
And you don't want to limit it to that, right?
That's the way it's always been. So for the master's degree, we can't, I think it doesn't make. So yeah, we can have somebody who has no civil engineering degree.
And
Agree, because it's.
I have no problem.
That's-
And I want a master's degree in a technical science. Or I'm calling business technical science.
But you're saying you want that as a requirement, but we're not requiring a master's degree. The master's degree is preferred, it's not a requirement.
Okay, well then put preferred with a particular science in it. Not required.
Well, why would we be doing that for the master's degree if we're not doing the same thing for the bachelor's degree? I think it's clear to me, clear as Kathy had told us before, it would be a clear understanding that if we're master's degree preferred, it will be a master's degree preferred in civil engineering, public administration, or business. Just as we have.
just for the record, I do have a master's of science in engineering. But I understand it's a great additive to this role. It's a great, I would say, addition to anybody who's gonna come to the city. However, you can find a lot of great, again, it's an added privilege. It's
The
not-
problem I see, this is a political position. And I want to try to
It's
keep the
not-
politics out of it, and keep it
is not
into the
political.
technology.
It is not political.
Well, if it was political, there's no requirements for a political position for a master's degree or doctorate degree.
See, now we're getting into what I'm afraid of.
It's really not political, even us,
It's not
we're not political. I serve all citizens. All citizens. I'm not political.
Okay, in 30 years, when you're not here, can
I have a
you
job
guarantee me?
to serve my community to the best of my ability, and I, doesn't matter what party you're a part of, what group, anything else, I'm gonna treat you equally and honestly and fairly.
In 30 years, when you're not here, can you assure me that the mayor will do the same? See, I'm worried about I'm not worried about right now, we've got.
That's
to
up to
go
the
through
mayor. That's up to that mayor.
But that hurts the city,
Our employee, I would kind of disagree with that. I mean, we are politicians are banding. I confess, I'm a politician as a servant of the people, the polis, anyway, so yeah, so right, but we're not taking political, we're not taking partisan.
But he's not.
But right, he is not. He's a
In our
civil-
city.
He's a civil servant. He does not speak for, you're the mayor, you're the political, so you're the political.
On the head.
Right, right, so, but none of our
That
employees
is correct.
are,
Got you. You're
are,
right.
yeah, are politicians. You're not political, this is not a political position. No employee is. Yeah, so.
Yeah,
I'm agreeing with you, Mayor.
And I'm agreeing with you. Okay, so there we go. All right, so.
Yeah, there was only one other.
We just had a political discussion.
Very good. But a respectful one at that.
The only other salient piece of the is the addition of language about the emergency responder 24-hour. So.
Yeah.
That is. On my for approval.
If the wheels fall off, we need you here, bro.
And job descriptions are something we traditionally look at every time there's a position change.
We have new requirements actually.
Interestingly enough, I didn't think that was necessary. I thought anybody who's head of a department was on call 24/7. By tradition.
Anybody who's exempt is actually on call 24/7.
This person is exempt.
Yes.
So, that's, but I would think anybody in this position, even without speaking it, is on call 24/7.
Hopefully she make it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and go into your city administrator report.
All right, looking off the agenda there. So tonight's regular session agenda, there are a few things that I wanted to draw some attention to, as far as the agreement with Polly Rogers. That's something that we get our auditing going underway. I've been spending a lot of time with finance and processes and procedures. It's one of those things that we'd like to get going. There's also an agreement with Scapa State Watershed Council, the projects that they're looking to partner with, are Bill. There's another one. McCormick. The creek, there's. And Godfrey, yes, Godfrey was on the list. An amendment to the First Street and Strand project and an IGA with the judicial services with the cities of Gladstone to.
Feeling order, Judge.
Yeah, judicial services. Kathy reminded me that Rachel has scheduled an Oregon Government Ethics Commission training to come here on September 21st at 5:30. So there's a training, they're going to come out and do a training here. We'll get you some reminders out on that.
Yeah.
September 21st. The last couple of weeks, I've been getting up to speed on a new legislation that's coming to be in effect here at the first of the year. Actually, a little bit sooner than that. It's called the Oregon Paid Leave Program. It's where there's going to be a new employment tax on payroll, 1% payroll tax that goes to fund a state funded program that it's 12 weeks of paid administrative leave or paid leave onto the cities. It's managed either through the state, through the local cities as a self-funded kind of option, or there's a third-party option that we can look at a private sector employer, but it's basically it funds. And it's not a one-for-one. It's based off income, how much the state covers. It's really complicated. They're kind of figuring out the rules going along right now.
Yeah.
But we know that it's going to be tax. We know that it's split is 60% on the employee, 40% on the employer. You'll hear more about it.
I think I did hear a little bit about this at the mayor's conference, and it's just their way of grabbing more.
how,
You're paying less.
how it benefits, who it benefits, or
Yeah,
the administrative element of that, to whether it's referring to the state, managing it internally, or third party. Sure, are all things that we're evaluating right now, we'll figure out, so. No answers, just a lot of questions at this point.
Like your employment money that got here, that's still here, as compared to the people got unemployed.
So, another things, the docs seem to be going really well, our noticing's been going on, we don't have the IGA or the services for the dock master, but we are communicating with legal on that. But people are paying, people are coming and going and leaving. Short amount of time, there's a new kiosk up there that's been in. Things raised, it's covered almost half the cost of the installation of that already. Wow.
There's something you gotta do with that kiosk, John. You gotta put spikes on, because the kids are staying on top of that and diving off of it.
Yeah.
on the kiosk?
Yeah, it's great fun watching those kids
Oh
go.
my God.
It's not really-
One of the things, kids in the water, and I talked briefly to John about this, but, the history of what's gone on with electricity down there
Yeah.
has not been the best.
Yeah.
And so there are electrocutions all over the world with people around moorages, and electrical cords in the water. And kids are the most vulnerable, and this water is the most dangerous because you can't see if they go down. I mean, it's we lost one person down here 4 years ago or 5 years ago off the Christmas lighting. And it was a hand in the water and a hand that went like this and never seen again. And so it's something that I'm really concerned about, and I try to mention it to kids, and they're having such a fun time. And they, exactly, my communication is ineffective, basically, you know, hey, you could die because there's electricity.
So I'm gonna agree with Council Morton. I'd like to just go ahead and pay for their real cheap, the signs. There's some down the marina that actually we can mimic. that
There
talk
are
about
some
it.
signs, but they're not as vibrant as the ones down at the marina.
Yes. that
We
we-
asked the PUD to put something up, a little electrical thing, you know, with the electrical shock in red going off, and exactly.
But even just electrolysis, you're right. that
Oh,
is happening.
unbelievable.
It could do something to any type of pacemaker, any type of anything that's inside your body that
Exactly.
you're unaware of. So.
Sorry, John.
Sorry to sidetrack you.
No, that was actually on my list.
Okay, well, that was the monkeys.
I got this. Yeah.
But that is going well down there. It is. for
It really
the-
is going.
It is going.
Much better. Yeah, just a lot of my day has been, lately has been very administrative rich.
Yes.
So. And, I think I'll.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
I think I'll conclude my report right there, that's right.
Okay. Yep. Okay, are we gonna have anything for executive session?
I would like to talk about the things, yes.
Okay.
Time for those.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and adjourn, and we're gonna be going into RS 192.6602 E real property transaction and H consulting with counsel. And with that, we are adjourned.